The Wild West, a land of lawlessness, cowboys, sheriffs, and mayors. The Wild West changed the frontiers in history, but one man in its place truly changed the frontiers in history. His name is Billy the Kid, and I will tell you his story and show you how he became the most influential person who ever set foot in the Wild West, and how he changed frontiers forever. It all starts with the birth of Henry McCarty, also known as Billy the Kid. He was born on November 23, 1859, most likely in New York City. He was raised by his parents until his father would die of an unknown cause at the end of the American Civil War. It also didn't help that his mother contracted tuberculosis. His mother was told to move to a dry climate in 1873. His mother married a man named William Atrim. After the marriage, they moved to Silver City, New Mexico. His stepfather virtually ignored his wife and stepsons, so Billy's mother had to provide for her sons, but her condition continued to worsen. Not soon after his mother died from tuberculosis, after her death, his stepfather put Billy and his younger brother Joseph in separate foster homes and moved to Arizona. His years in the foster homes were mostly good. He worked at a hotel. His manager was impressed by the young boy. He wasn't like the other boys. He didn't steal anything or do anything bad. But on September 23rd, 1875, he was arrested for being a lookout while his mate stole from a laundryman. They stole clothes and 2 pistols. He was in the county jail until he shimmied up a chimney to escape. At 15, he's officially an outlaw. He traveled 500 miles in the New Mexico desert alone. As a young man, Billy turned up at Camp Grant in Arizona Territory, looking for work. He finally got a job as a ranch hand. This is where he earned the nickname Kid. Kid was a common nickname for delinquents and juveniles. He was bullied for a long time. Then one day, he was attacked. Billy the Kid retaliated by drawing his gun and shooting him, and the bully died the next day. Again in custody, he would escape again. Again, he was on the run because of his criminal past. He could not find honest work. He met other outlaw named Jesse Evans, the leader of a gang called the Boys. Unable to find honest work, he reluctantly joined the gang. The Lincoln Country War was a war of land between 2 cattle barons. The gang got involved. He was arrested for possessing horses belonging to John Tunstall. But before he could be executed, John hired Billy as a gunman for his ranch. In this time, Billy and John became good friends, but his friend John Tunstall was killed on February 18, 1878. Billy was deeply affected by the murder of his friend. At his funeral, Billy said, "I'll hunt every man who killed my friend if it's the last thing I do." He did, in fact, do that. With the help of the regulators, he shot and killed the deputy who killed Tunstall. Enraged, he killed another deputy and the county sheriff. The government hunted and killed the rest of the regulators, and Billy was the last one standing. Billy the Kid was now the most wanted man in the Wild West. The retired Union General Lee Wallace became the new territorial governor. He was not a big fan of Billy's murders, but Billy sent several letters to the government that Billy was willing to surrender himself and testify under other combatants. In March 1879, Billy, staying true to his outlaw life, greeted the governor with a pistol. A couple days have passed, and Billy agreed to testify in return for a pardon. Part of the agreement was that Billy had to submit and stay a short time in jail, but the judge ignored the governor's orders to free Billy. He managed to slip out of the handcuffs and fled. His hideout was around Fort Sumner during this time. He became good friends with a bartender named Pat Garrett. But then Pat was elected for Lincoln County Sheriff. Now Pat Garrett was ordered to capture his friend Billy the Kid, dead or alive. Billy was again on the run. He realized that he cannot do this alone any longer. The price on the head was too big. So he recruited a gang consisting of Tom O'Fuller, Charlie Brodeur, Tom Pickett, Dirty Dave, Billy Wilson, and Billy the Kid. By 1880, he was still trying to convince the government to pardon him, while also continuing in his outlaw activities. His notoriety increased on the eastern coast. On November 30th, 1880, the Rustlers rode into White Oaks, New Mexico. They ran into the local sheriff and a gunfight broke loose. The gang was overwhelmed and chased out of town. In December, Governor Walz had enough of this and put a $500 price tag on Billy's head. Pat Garrett began his pursuit of Billy the Kid. Sheriff Garrett began his hunt by setting multiple traps to apprehend the kid, but Billy was an escape artist. After these ambushes, the Rustlers began to ride to Fort Sumner, but the sheriff and his men were hiding in an old hospital building. The sheriff and his men leaped out in front of the Rustlers. Sheriff Garrett ordered the gang to stop, but his men ignored Garrett and shot at the gang. Pickett and O'Fuller were riding in front. Pickett survived, but O'Fuller died. 30 Days' horse took a bullet to the head and collapsed, but he managed to climb on Wilson's horse and escape. The rest of the gang escaped. They fled to an abandoned cabin in Stinking Springs. Garrett was close behind, and not soon after they surrounded the house. About a day, they finally surrendered. The Rustlers were captured on December 23rd, 1880. Billy was taken to Mesilla jail. He stayed there until he was taken to his trial. He was convicted of murder and robbery. He was sentenced to hang on May 13th, but he was taken to Lincoln Jail to await his date. On April 28th, only 16 days till his execution, an inside man left a pistol at a location a guard escorted him to daily. He grabbed the pistol and shot the guard. After this, Billy stole a shotgun. He hid in the room he was being held in and waited for the other guard. The guard came bursting in. He looked up and Billy was aiming the rusty shotgun right at him. Then he pulled the trigger. The guard was instantly killed. He fled to Fort Sumner. In the night, Pat Garrett snuck in with his two best deputies. Garrett and his men were standing outside on the front porch. The kid woke up and walked out on the porch. Billy was unable to see Garrett in the light. "Who's there?" he said. Then Garrett pulled out his revolver and shot the kid twice, with one landing in his heart. Billy the Kid was dead. The next day, Billy's friends Tom O'Fuller and Charlie Brodeur buried him at the Fort Sumner Cemetery. Billy the Kid was born in the East and died in the West. He changed the American frontier forever. Before Billy's shenanigans, America didn't really care much about New Mexico and Arizona's safety. But after Billy the Kid died, Washington upped the ante on the control over those territories. Even though Billy was a bad man, he had a good effect in America, even if he didn't try to have a good